Chosen one, listen carefully. Heaven saw you today. When others collapsed beneath the weight of their trials, you stood, maybe trembling, maybe exhausted, but still standing. The unseen realm trembled when you refused to surrender. The moment you whispered, "I still trust you," something shifted in the spirit. Heaven took notice. Every act of courage you made silent, small, unseen was recorded, not with ink, but with divine fire. When you rose from your bed, even though your heart felt broken, the angels applauded. When you chose kindness instead of vengeance, heaven leaned in closer. Every time you pushed through fear and kept believing, the sound of your endurance echoed like thunder before the throne of God. You may think no one noticed how hard it was. You may have believed your struggle was hidden in shadows, but heaven never misses a single moment of faith. The eyes of the Lord roam throughout the earth, searching for hearts like yours, hearts that still believe even when the world grows cold. And today, heaven found you. You have been tested through fire, not because you were forgotten, but because you were trusted. You were entrusted with the kind of pain that shapes warriors, not wanderers. Every delay, every disappointment, every moment that made you question your own strength was divine training. You were never being punished, you were being refined. Chosen one, the courage you showed today silenced accusations that were being whispered against your destiny. The darkness that rose against you lost its power the moment you chose to rise again. The enemy expected you to quit. Instead, you praised. You lifted your voice. Even if your voice trembled, you said, "God, I'm still here." That one sentence caused spiritual earthquakes. Heaven saw, and heaven responded. As the apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58, "Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the Lord's work, knowing your labor is not in vain." That is the heartbeat of heaven over you right now. You are steadfast. You are immovable. Your quiet endurance has been seen and rewarded. The strength that carried you through the storm is not human, it is divine. Heaven has placed resilience in your bones, fire in your spirit, and peace in your steps. You may feel ordinary, but the light that burns in you is extraordinary. When you stood firm, entire demonic assignments crumbled. When you smiled through pain, you robbed hell of its celebration. Every time you refused to curse what God is still blessing, your faith became a weapon. Listen closely. Your courage today was not random, it was orchestrated. Heaven arranged that moment to reveal what's inside you. And now that you have stood your ground, every attack sent against you has lost its authority. You have officially entered a new spiritual rank. This is not motivational talk, this is revelation. You are walking proof that God's hand cannot fail. You are not forgotten, you are favored. You are not a victim, you are victorious. The same fire that tried to consume you became the forge of your destiny. You are the evidence that perseverance still moves heaven. Chosen one, lift your head. You may have scars, but those scars are your credentials. You may have tears, but those tears are your testimony. Heaven has seen your courage, and because of that, you will never walk alone again. The Lord Himself walks beside you, and angels have been assigned to strengthen your path. Now, take this moment to breathe. Feel the weight that once crushed you begin to lift. You don't have to understand everything, just know that heaven understands you. When others see the surface, heaven sees the sacrifice. And every sacrifice you made in faith has just been acknowledged by the throne. It is time to declare it aloud. Heaven saw me today. Say it again. Heaven saw my courage. Let that truth echo in your spirit. You didn't fight in vain. You didn't endure for nothing. Your persistence was prophecy. Your resistance was warfare. Your resilience was worship. If this message resonates deep in your soul, pause for a moment and let your spirit agree. Don't scroll away. Heaven arranged this exact moment for you to hear these words. Comment below 777, Heaven saw me today. It is your prophetic act of agreement, your seal of faith that heaven has indeed recorded your courage. And before you leave this moment, beloved, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because this is only the beginning of what heaven is revealing over your life. Stay connected to this flow of divine reminders, because each message is a stepping stone toward the glory written for you. Heaven took notice. You stood. You are chosen. You were never unseen. Chosen one. From the moment you whispered your first trembling prayer, eyes not of this world were fixed upon you. Heaven's watchers, radiant and fierce, have stood guard around your life long before you even knew you were in battle. You were watched by angels, holy sentinels, who neither sleep nor grow weary, for they have been assigned to your destiny. There were nights when darkness crept close, whispering lies into your mind. Fear tried to settle like fog. Shame tried to return, and confusion pressed against your heart. But in that very moment, when you thought you were alone, wings of light surrounded you. You could not see them, yet they stood there, flaming with divine purpose, shielding you from unseen harm. Every attack that should have reached you was intercepted by hands not of this earth. You are not walking through chaos unprotected. You are under heavenly surveillance, surrounded by those who war in silence for your preservation. Angels were not sent because you were weak. They were sent because you are chosen. Because heaven recognizes the weight of your calling. The more powerful your purpose, the stronger the protection assigned to you. Think back to the times when disaster nearly struck, but somehow you were spared. The accident that didn't happen, the illness that broke off suddenly, the conversation that shifted in your favor at the last moment. None of those were coincidences. Those were divine interventions. Those were the fingerprints of heaven on your timeline. There are moments when angels move through your world quietly, rearranging outcomes. They whisper courage into your heart when you feel faint. They stand at the corners of your path, pushing back forces that wish to devour your peace. You may not feel them, but their presence is undeniable in the way you keep surviving what should have ended you. Heaven's army does not protect the indifferent, it protects the anointed. You carry something too precious for the enemy to steal easily. The favor you walk in is the result of battles fought in the invisible. The protection you feel is not luck, it is strategy. Heaven invests resources only where heaven has purpose, and heaven has placed immense purpose upon you. The Spirit spoke through the prophet David in the Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11. He shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. That word is not poetry, it is law. It is a decree that heaven has already enforced around you. God has given his angels command authority concerning you. That means they are not volunteers, they are on divine assignment. When the enemy plots, they counterplot. When evil stirs, They respond before it can touch you. You are not walking through enemy territory alone. You are escorted by light. There have been moments when you felt a strange peace that made no sense, as if something unseen calmed the storm within you. That was angelic intervention. When you suddenly felt strength rise up just when you were about to give up, that was heaven, breathing courage into you through its messengers. You are never without witnesses, never without defense. The angels that stand near you are not fragile. They are warriors forged in fire. They do not negotiate with darkness. They command it to flee. And every time you pray, every time you speak truth, every time you choose forgiveness over bitterness, you strengthen their hand in battle. Your obedience fuels heaven's movement. Your purity gives angels permission to operate freely in your atmosphere. This is why the enemy tries to lure you into anger, distraction, and despair, because he knows that a discouraged chosen one becomes less aware of their divine backing. But you are awakening now. The veil is lifting, and you are beginning to sense that you have never been alone. You are walking under divine surveillance. And this awareness is not meant to make you fearful, it is meant to make you fearless. You have nothing to prove, nothing to chase, and nothing to fear. Heaven has already declared that your path is protected. When the world sees coincidence, heaven calls it covenant. When you see delay, heaven sees preparation. When you see resistance, heaven sees refinement. Every unseen hand that guided you was part of a larger orchestration designed to keep your destiny intact. Chosen one, stand still for a moment and imagine the unseen glow around you now, even as you breathe. Forces of light move through your space, keeping you from harm. The air you inhale is guarded. The steps you take are watched, and the words you speak are recorded in glory. You are precious cargo in the realm of eternity, and heaven will not lose you. Your survival is not random, it is evidence that you are marked. Every assignment against you has to pass through angelic gates first, and most never make it through. The ones that do are only allowed to strengthen, not to destroy. So, when the storm rises again, do not tremble. You are not fighting alone. Heaven's watchers are already surrounding you, their swords drawn, their orders sealed. You are protected in the morning and covered in the night. You are never outnumbered, never abandoned, never overlooked. You were watched by angels, and every glance of heaven toward you is filled with pride. You are the one who kept believing when belief seemed foolish, and because of that, the whole of heaven stands guard around your name. When the storm rose against you, chosen one, the heavens did not panic. God did not call an emergency meeting. The thunder that tried to drown your peace was already known in eternity before it ever reached your sky. Every gust of chaos was measured, every wave permitted for your strengthening. The storm was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to reveal you. You see, storms are not always sent to break you. Sometimes they are allowed to unveil what cannot be shaken. The winds tested your foundation, but they could not move what was built on truth. The darkness that surrounded you only served to make your inner light burn brighter. And though you felt the sting of rain, heaven was watering seeds that would one day bloom from your endurance. There were nights when you questioned if God had gone silent. You cried, "Why me? Why now?" And heaven answered not with words, but with presence. Every lightning strike became a reminder that even in chaos, His power reigns. Every roar of thunder echoed the heartbeat of your Creator, declaring, "You are still mine." The storm was your teacher. It stripped away illusions, peeled off the masks of false comfort, and forced you to depend on something deeper than sight. It was not punishment, it was positioning. God allowed you to walk through the tempest so that when calm returned, you would no longer fear the waves. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Those words still breathe over your spirit today. The storm wasn't your responsibility to fix. It was God's battlefield to conquer. Your stillness was not weakness, it was surrender. The moment you stopped trying to control the chaos, heaven took command. You may not have noticed, but every time you chose peace over panic, the enemy lost ground. Every time you whispered prayer instead of complaint, darkness retreated. Every tear became a seed of authority, and every breath of faith became a decree in the Spirit. Look back now and see what survived your faith, your identity, your calling. The things that truly mattered were untouched. The storm exposed what was temporary so that the eternal could emerge. You have been stripped of what was never meant to stay, and now you walk lighter, freer, stronger, chosen one. Storms are not signs of abandonment, they are invitations to witness God's defense. You did not walk through the tempest alone. Every wave that threatened you bowed before divine command. Every wind that roared against you carried a hidden message. You are still chosen. And now, heaven wants you to understand something sacred. The storm obeys you when you stand in alignment with the one who commands it. The authority that once silenced seas through the voice of Christ now stirs within your spirit. You have been trained through turbulence to speak peace into chaos, not only in your life, but in the lives of others. There will come a day soon when someone else's storm will tremble at your testimony. You will say, "I've been there," and they will feel heaven in your voice. That is why the storm was allowed, because your endurance became a lighthouse for others still lost at sea. So take a deep breath. The air feels cleaner now because your spirit has been purified. You have emerged not only alive, but awakened. You now carry authority in the very area where you once felt broken. You are no longer terrified of the waves, because you've learned that even in their rage, they obey the same God who holds you. If this truth reaches deep into your soul, don't let it pass in silence. Type the words, "I survived" below. Say it boldly, for it is not just a comment, it is a declaration of victory. Each letter becomes a spiritual banner waved before heaven and against hell itself. When you type those words, you're not seeking attention, you're announcing alignment. You're saying, "I recognize what I came through, and I know who carried me." The storm rose, but it could not win. You stood, and heaven rejoiced. Every gust of wind that once terrified you has now become your testimony. The same clouds that once overshadowed you will soon rain blessings in your favor. Remember this, chosen one, storms do not come to bury you. They come to reveal that you cannot be buried. The earth shakes. The sky roars. But you, child of God, remain unbroken. You were built for endurance, carved for purpose, anointed for victory. And though the storm was fierce, heaven saw your courage. That's why the clouds are clearing now. The battle that once raged around you has lost its voice. Because peace, your peace, has spoken louder. Your silence was a sword. Chosen one, When the storm screamed for your reaction and you refused to answer, heaven called it warfare. The silence that the world misinterpreted as weakness was, in truth, divine strength disguised as stillness. Every time you bit your tongue, every moment you chose peace over argument, you were swinging a sword sharper than any word could ever be. You see, silence in the hands of the chosen is not passive, it is prophetic. The enemy expected you to respond with anger, to lash out and ruin your witness. But instead, you stood still, breathing through the ache, letting God speak where you could not. That decision rewrote outcomes in the unseen realm. What looked like surrender to men was actually strategy in the spirit. There were moments when your silence burned your throat like fire. You wanted to defend yourself, to explain, to prove your innocence. Yet something greater whispered, "Hold your peace," and you obeyed. That whisper was heaven training your restraint, teaching you that not every battle is yours to fight, and not every accusation deserves an answer. You learned that the truth defends itself, and God defends those who refuse to defend themselves. When you stayed silent, heaven spoke louder. When you refused to match their energy, the presence of God began to match yours. Your silence summoned divine justice. It allowed heaven's voice to thunder where yours was quiet. That is how kingdoms are moved, not through noise, but through authority. You may never know how many curses broke when you held your tongue. You may never see how many lies fell apart the moment you chose not to respond. Yet in the spirit, your silence was a roar. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 17, verse 28, even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. This ancient truth still lives within you. Silence is not emptiness. It is energy conserved for divine timing. The wise speak when heaven gives them words. The chosen speak only when the Spirit stirs them. And you, beloved, have mastered the holy art of silence. There is a power in withholding words. The world thrives on reaction. Every insult demands a reply. Every offense seeks validation. But when you refuse to engage, you disarmed darkness. Your calm exposed its chaos. The enemy cannot fight what will not speak his language. Every time you swallowed your pride, every time you let God have the final word, you were proving that peace is not passive, it is powerful. Silence is the language of those who trust heaven's timing. And when heaven's timing arrived, the truth began to speak without your help. Look at what happened afterward. Those who spoke against you found themselves silenced. Those who misunderstood you began to see, not because you shouted, but because God revealed. You did not need to manipulate perception. God himself handled your reputation. In this season, your silence has become sacred. You've learned to discern the difference between reaction and revelation. You understand that not every invitation to fight deserves attendance. You've discovered that some of the loudest victories are won in the quiet. The world may never understand the power you carry when you choose restraint, but heaven does. Angels marvel at your discipline, for they know how rare it is for a soul to trust God enough to stay still. You are not avoiding battle, you are choosing a higher battlefield. Sometimes God hides his strongest warriors behind the calmest faces. You don't need to prove your strength to those who question it. Your endurance has already proven it to heaven. Every unspoken word has become a weapon of light. Every withheld argument has become an altar of worship. Remember how Jesus himself stood before accusers and remained silent. The Son of God, infinite in power, chose stillness before the storm of words. His silence was not defeat, it was sovereignty. You walk in that same spirit when you hold your peace. So keep your silence sharp. Chosen one, it cuts deeper than anger ever could. While others fight to be heard, you will see that heaven fights for you. Your quiet moments are thrones of authority. The peace you protect becomes the place where God's justice dwells. The next time someone misunderstands you, remember, you don't need to react, because you are already redeemed. The next time lies rise like waves, remind your heart that truth does not need defense, it needs time. And heaven has perfect timing. You are learning the rhythm of royalty now. Kings and queens do not argue in the streets, they decree from the palace. Your silence is that throne room decree. It is the sound of one who knows that victory is already written. So, stay still, stay wise, and stay aligned. The world may hear nothing from you, but heaven hears everything within you. The silence that once felt heavy now hums with divine strength. You no longer fight with words, you rule with peace. Every tear was testimony. Chosen one, not a single drop that fell from your eyes was wasted. Heaven caught them all, liquid prayers, holy evidence of your endurance. The world saw sorrow, but heaven saw sacred ink writing your name in victory. What others dismissed as breakdowns were, in truth, breakthroughs disguised as grief. Every sleepless night became a chapter in your divine story. Every time your chest ached with the weight of silence, angels stood guard, collecting your tears in vessels of remembrance. You thought no one saw, but heaven was watching, recording every trembling sigh as worship. Pain has a strange way of teaching truth. It strips away illusions and reveals what truly matters. When the people you trusted walked away, when the doors you knocked on stayed closed, when love turned cold, heaven whispered, "Still, you are mine." The tears that fell then were not evidence of defeat, but proof that your heart was still alive, still capable of love, still capable of faith. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 56, verse 8, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." Imagine that. Beloved, your tears are not forgotten, not lost in the dust of despair. They are treasures in heaven's archive. Each one tells a story of persistence, of trust that refused to die. They shine before God as jewels of faith. When you cried, "I can't go on," heaven replied, "You already are." Tears are strange messengers. They carry the language of the soul. Words too deep for speech. Every tear you cried watered a seed of destiny. What you thought was grief was actually growth, just as rain nourishes unseen roots. Your tears have been feeding your calling beneath the surface, and soon the harvest of those tears will come. You will laugh in places where you once wept. You will dance in spaces that once felt like graves. The same ground that absorbed your tears will bloom with the evidence of divine faithfulness. When you look back one day, you'll realize those nights of weeping were not punishment, they were preparation. God was softening the soil of your heart to receive new joy. Joy that would not have taken root in hardness. The tears made you tender, compassionate, understanding. They made you someone heaven can trust with the healing of others. Chosen one, your tears have become a ministry. You will speak words that pierce because you've lived the pain behind them. You will comfort because you have been comforted. You will carry light into places of sorrow because you once learned to see in the dark. Now, hear this truth gently. The same God who allowed the tears has also promised the restoration. You will not always cry over what you lost. Soon you will rejoice over what those tears brought forth. Your sorrow was an investment in wisdom. Your heartbreak, a down payment on glory. Think of your life like a field. The rain came heavy. The ground felt flooded, and everything seemed ruined. But beneath the surface, seeds began to swell. Roots began to spread. The storm was not destruction, it was irrigation. And now, the sun of God's promise is rising again, drawing beauty out of everything that once hurt you. Beloved, if these words touch something sacred in you, take a moment to breathe deeply. Feel gratitude rising where grief once lived. That shift inside you, that quiet peace, is the beginning of your restoration. And if this message has watered your heart today, I ask something small, yet meaningful. Like this message, not out of routine, but as a sign that your tears have found understanding here. Share it with someone who's still in their midnight hour. Someone who needs to know their pain has purpose. Subscribe, not to follow a voice, but to stay connected to the river that keeps reminding you who you are. This space exists to pour light into weary souls like yours, and if you feel led to sow, whether through a kind word, a prayer, or a donation, it's like placing another seed into heaven's garden. Every act of giving becomes another testimony, another ripple of hope reaching those who still believe they are forgotten. No gesture is too small in the kingdom of compassion. Like raindrops, they gather to form rivers that carry grace farther than any single person could. So, wipe your face, chosen one. Lift your eyes. The same hands that counted your tears are now preparing to crown you with laughter. The pain that once soaked your pillow is becoming perfume in God's throne room. You will smile again, and this time, it will be from a place of deep knowing, not fleeting joy. Every tear was testimony. Every sob was scripture in motion. Heaven wrote your story in silver drops. And now, the ink has dried into eternal beauty. The enemy's plans backfired. Chosen one, what was meant to destroy you has become the very force that defines you. The traps laid in the dark turned into stepping stones beneath your feet. Every whisper of deceit that rose against you has now become a testimony of divine reversal. You didn't just survive the attack, you benefited from it. Heaven took the enemy's blueprint and turned it into a divine design. Think back for a moment. Remember the moments that felt like betrayal, failure, or complete collapse. The times you said, "This must be the end." Yet somehow, you are still here, stronger, clearer, brighter. That is not coincidence. That is proof of divine sovereignty. The very weapon that was crafted against you became the tool that shaped your purpose. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Joseph's story in the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. That ancient truth still echoes through your own life. The betrayal that wounded you was also the bridge that carried you to destiny. The rejection that broke you was actually redirection. Every loss was a seed. Every delay was protection. Heaven has been rewriting everything the enemy thought he had the final word on. There were moments you cried, "Why did this have to happen but now?" You're beginning to see if it hadn't happened, you wouldn't have been prepared. If they hadn't left, you wouldn't have been lifted. If the door hadn't closed, you would never have found the right one. What you thought was destruction was divine construction. Heaven never wastes a wound. Every scar on your soul has been redeemed into strength. You don't wear the evidence of defeat. You carry the markings of wisdom. The places you once bled are now glowing with the proof of survival. There is a certain beauty in the way God uses the enemy's energy against him. Like a master artist, he turns the chaos into color. What the enemy built as a snare becomes a bridge for your elevation. When darkness thought it had won, light rose from the ashes with your name written upon it. The backfire of hell became the birth of your testimony. Every lie the enemy spoke about you is now the foundation of your truth. Every time you were underestimated, heaven smiled because it knew the ending long before the beginning. Chosen one. This is the pattern of the divine. What comes to destroy you becomes the instrument that defines you. Fire doesn't consume gold, it refines it. Pressure doesn't break diamonds, it reveals them. The more you were pressed, the brighter you began to shine. And now you stand at a turning point where the very things that hurt you are about to help you. The same circumstances that once drained your spirit will soon produce abundance. You are walking into a reversal season. The arrows that once pierced you are being melted down and reforged into your armor. The battle that once wounded you has become your training ground. The enemy didn't realize that by pushing you, he was propelling you. By attacking you, he was accelerating your awakening. By cornering you, he was positioning you for revelation. The plans that were meant to end you have turned into the launch pad of your purpose. When heaven intervenes, even chaos becomes choreography. You are moving in rhythm with divine justice now. Every injustice has an expiration date. Every plot formed in darkness collapses under the light of your endurance. You are not merely surviving, you are thriving on what tried to destroy you. The next time you look back, don't see failure, see formation. Don't see betrayal, see breakthrough. Don't see pain, see prophecy fulfilled. Because truly, your life has become the evidence that no weapon, no word, no scheme can stand against the favor of the chosen. If these words resonate in your spirit, if you can feel the truth vibrating deep within you, take a quiet moment to mark it. Comment below 888. This number, a symbol of new beginnings and divine renewal, represents the completion of one cycle and the birth of another. When you type it, you are not typing digits, you are declaring that every attack has lost its purpose and that heaven's reversal is already active in your life. This is your confirmation. The worst that happened to you has already been transformed into the best that could happen for you. You are walking out of the ashes with power that only comes through experience. You are the living embodiment of heaven's backfire strategy. The enemy has no idea how dangerous you've become because everything he used against you now serves you. Every storm made you wiser. Every wound made you deeper. And every delay made you unstoppable. You have entered the season where divine irony reigns. The destroyer became your deliverer, and the darkness became your doorway. Stand tall, chosen one. Heaven has flipped the script. What was meant for evil now proclaims your victory. The hidden training of the chosen is never glamorous. Chosen one. It is not carried out on stages or beneath lights. It happens in the shadows. in the silence where only heaven and your heart can see. You have been walking through a season of divine formation, one that looked like isolation, but was in fact holy preparation. There were moments when you wondered why doors closed without explanation, why prayers seemed unanswered, why you felt unseen, even when you were doing everything right. But heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was instructing you. You were being trained for something that noise could never teach. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 18, verse 4. But the pot he was shaping from the clay was marred in his hands, so the potter formed it into another pot, shaping it as seemed best to him. You are that clay. Beloved, the hands of the potter have been pressing, turning, and shaping you into a vessel fit for purpose. The pressure you felt was not cruelty, it was craftsmanship. The reshaping was never rejection, it was redirection. God was molding you into something that could carry greater glory without cracking under its weight. Hidden seasons are heaven's classrooms. They strip away applause, silence, distractions, and reveal your dependence. You were learning to hear God's whisper in the absence of affirmation. You were being trained to recognize His movement even when the crowd was gone. This is how chosen ones are prepared, not in comfort, but in consecration. There is a beauty in divine obscurity. When heaven hides you, it is never punishment, it is preservation. You were hidden not because you were unworthy, but because you were too valuable to be exposed prematurely. Like seeds buried in the soil, you were placed in darkness so that roots could grow. Every hidden day was part of heaven's rhythm: silence, struggle, and strengthening. You learned to walk by faith when evidence disappeared. You learned to love without applause. You learned to believe without proof. That kind of training cannot be faked. It is earned through obedience and perseverance. The world values visibility, but heaven values readiness. When your time comes to be revealed, you will not crumble under the weight of attention because you've been trained in secret how to remain anchored. Those who rise without roots are easily blown away. But you, chosen one, have been deeply planted. There were lessons written into your loneliness, when you had no one to call. Heaven was teaching you to listen. When no one understood your heart, heaven was tuning it to divine frequencies. You began to recognize that isolation is never empty. It's filled with instruction for those who are willing to listen. You were learning discernment, how to tell the difference between opportunity and distraction, between emotion and revelation. You were being taught to depend on truth, not feeling, on purpose, not popularity. You were being rewired to see beyond the surface, to sense heaven's movements with precision. And while you felt forgotten, heaven was preparing introductions. While you sat in silence, heaven was arranging platforms. While you wondered if anything would change, heaven was setting divine alignment in motion. The potter never wastes the waiting. He is always working while the clay rests in his hands. Chosen one, the hidden season has refined your spirit. It has burned away your need for validation. It has silenced your dependence on approval. It has replaced your desire for attention with a hunger for presence. You now carry authority born of authenticity, the kind that cannot be manufactured, only molded. Remember, these diamonds are formed in darkness and under pressure. Gold is refined in fire, not in comfort. Warriors are trained in silence before they ever step onto the battlefield. You are no different. The hidden season has not disqualified you, it has distinguished you. Soon, what was invisible will become undeniable. The skills you gained in silence will suddenly make sense. The strength you built in the valley will carry you across mountains. Those who once overlooked you will one day recognize the weight of what heaven placed within you. Do not despise your hiddenness. It is the place where God hides his greatest treasures. When heaven prepares to reveal something eternal, it first conceals it to keep it pure. And you, beloved, are being purified for purpose. When the time is right, heaven will lift the veil. You will not have to announce yourself. Your light will do it for you. And every person who doubted you will realize that you were never behind. You were simply being built. The hidden training of the chosen is sacred ground. What you endured in silence has forged you into someone unstoppable. Heaven has been crafting a masterpiece behind closed doors. And soon the world will see what patience, pain, and purpose have produced. Hold your peace, steady your faith, and trust the process. The potter has not finished yet, but the form is almost ready. Heaven's applause broke chains. Chosen one, when you lifted your hands in worship while everything around you was falling apart, something shifted in realms you could not see. Every note of your praise became a weapon. Every word of gratitude became a hammer that shattered unseen prisons. You did not realize it, but your worship was warfare. There are moments when heaven does not respond with words, but with movement. When you began to praise through your pain, angels moved. When your tears mixed with your hallelujah, the sound shook the foundations of captivity. That is why the enemy fought so hard to silence your song, because he knows that a worshipper who refuses to quit cannot be bound. You may not have felt strong, but your praise carried power. The sound of your surrender terrified darkness. The same hands that once trembled in weakness became instruments of victory. You lifted them not out of comfort, but out of conviction. And heaven responded with thunderous applause, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the book of Acts, chapter 16, verse 26, suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's chains were loosed. This ancient moment did not remain in history. It became a pattern. Every time a child of God praises in the middle of confinement, the ground still shakes. Your praise has that same power. When you sang in the night, walls began to tremble. The chains you could feel, and even those you couldn't, started to fall. Praise does what words cannot. It bypasses logic and touches eternity. It tells heaven, I trust you even here. And that declaration opens doors no key can reach. You may not have seen it, but heaven applauded when you worshipped without answers. The applause of heaven is not mere sound, it is authority. When heaven claps, things break. The enemy wanted to bury you beneath discouragement, but you built an altar instead. You took what was meant for mourning and turned it into melody. Every sigh became a song. Every pain became prophecy. When you sang, you didn't just express your faith, you enforced it. There is a rhythm in the spirit that only the chosen can hear. It is the rhythm of redemption, the heartbeat of heaven syncing with your own. When your heart beats in praise, you become aligned with the pulse of eternity itself. And that alignment releases freedom, not just for you, but for others connected to you. Think of it this way. Your worship was not only for your deliverance, it was for someone else's awakening. Somewhere, another soul was freed because you refused to stop praising. Chains you could not see, chains of fear, of addiction, of shame snapped because your faith released a sound strong enough to echo across spiritual boundaries. There is something miraculous about those who praise when everything hurts. It confuses the enemy. He cannot comprehend how someone still wounded can still worship. But that is the mystery of divine love. It creates worshippers who know that even in pain, God is still worthy. Heaven's applause did not merely celebrate you, it liberated you. The sound of heaven's agreement over your endurance sent shockwaves through realms of darkness. Bonds that had held your family for generations loosened because of your obedience. You are not just free, you are a freedom carrier now. You see, the chains that once restrained you were not random, they were generational. But when you praised, you broke what others could not. Your worship became inheritance for those who will come after you. They will walk on the ground you fought to free. The applause of heaven is different from the applause of men. It does not fade when the song ends. It lingers, echoing through your life, marking you as one who worships in truth. Every time you open your mouth to praise, heaven remembers the day you praised through pain and responds again. Chosen one, understand this, your song is sacred. It is a key in the hands of the Spirit. You do not need a stage for it to matter. The most powerful worship happens when no one is watching but God. That quiet hallelujah in your room carries more weight than any melody sung for recognition. So keep your worship pure, unfiltered, and real. It has already proven itself to be stronger than fear, louder than despair, and brighter than darkness. You have learned the secret chains break not because of strength, but because of surrender. The applause of heaven was not given to celebrate a performance, it was to honor your perseverance. You chose faith when nothing made sense, and that choice echoed louder than any song. Heaven's applause broke chains, and those chains will never return. The day courage became prophecy. Chosen one was not written in celebration but in struggle. You didn't even realize it was happening. While you were fighting to breathe through disappointment, heaven was recording your endurance as fulfillment of a divine promise. The courage you showed in silence spoke louder than 1,000 prayers. There are moments when faith stops being something you speak about and becomes something you embody. That is what happened to you. You stopped waiting for confirmation and started walking in conviction. You decided to trust God, not because you understood, but because you refused to let fear dictate your destiny. That single decision shifted your timeline. The ancient words recorded in the book of Joshua, Chapter 1, verse 9, declare, "Be strong and courageous. Do not fear, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." That verse is no longer just ink on a page, it is the anthem of your life. You have walked through valleys that others did not survive, yet you kept moving forward. You faced the unknown with trembling hands and still said, "I will trust." Heaven saw that. The earth felt that. Your courage shook dimensions. You became a living prophecy. Chosen one. While others looked for signs, you became one. Your endurance testified that God's promises are not myths but movements. You became proof that delay is not denial, that waiting seasons are wombs for miracles. When you kept walking through uncertainty, you activated promises that had been dormant for generations. When you kept believing even after disappointment, you revived things that heaven refused to let die. The moment you chose faith over fear, prophecy began to breathe again. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision that fear will not win. Your trembling yes carried more authority than 1,000 confident words. Heaven never needed your perfection, it needed your permission. And the moment you gave it, heaven began to build through you. You've walked through fire and rain, through laughter and tears. And in all of it, your courage has been a declaration that God is faithful. You did not know that angels were sent to record every moment of perseverance. Every time you whispered, "I still trust you." Those whispers became heaven's evidence that the prophecy was unfolding exactly on time. The moment you faced what terrified you and refused to run, the words spoken over your life years ago started to come alive. That was the day courage became prophecy. It wasn't when everything went right, it was when you stood your ground, when everything went wrong. Prophecy is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like someone choosing peace when provoked, forgiveness when wounded, patience when delayed. Your life has become a quiet sermon of endurance, a testimony of what divine resilience looks like in motion. You may not have seen angels, but they were there taking notes, celebrating every act of bravery. The heavens don't measure courage by the absence of tears, they measure it by obedience in the midst of pain. You kept moving when you didn't feel strong, and that made the ground beneath your feet holy. Understand, this prophecy is not just spoken, it is lived. Every time you act in faith, you fulfill another fragment of what God declared over you. Your courage is the ink writing the final chapters of promises once sealed in eternity. And heaven is applauding, because the words written long ago are now breathing through you. Even now, your courage is creating ripple effects. Someone is watching your persistence, drawing strength from your example. You are unknowingly awakening faith in others. The same light that sustained you in darkness is now guiding them. That is how prophecy multiplies. It moves from vessel to vessel through courage. So, if this word finds you today, and something within you feels seen, take a moment to affirm it in the simplest way possible. Comment below, "I rise." These two words are not a casual statement, they are a divine agreement. When you type them, you are declaring resurrection over your courage, restoration over your purpose. You are saying, "I rise from what tried to bury me. I rise into what God has spoken." Each letter becomes a trumpet in the spirit, announcing that the prophecy is alive and still unfolding through you. Your belief becomes a seed planted in eternity. It tells the unseen world that you have not given up and never will. Every time you declare belief, you strengthen the echo of prophecy within you. Courage is not over, it is evolving. What began as survival has turned into destiny. The same strength that kept you alive is now pulling others out of their own despair. Your courage has become contagious. Your endurance, a prophecy in motion. Heaven watches and smiles because you did not just hear prophecy, you became it. You are living proof that the word never returns void, that faith always finds fulfillment, and that courage, even trembling, carries the authority of heaven itself. The day courage became prophecy was not yesterday or tomorrow, it is today. And you are walking in it now. The light that terrified darkness, chosen one, is not something you wear, it is something you are. You carry illumination born of endurance, a brilliance refined in battles unseen. The enemy feared your light long before you understood you had it. And now, as you walk through this season, that light has grown fierce, steady, unwavering, and untamed. Every time you refused to curse the pain, your light expanded. Every moment you chose faith instead of fear. Your glow pierced deeper into shadows. Darkness recognizes authority, and your very presence disrupts its plans. That is why attacks intensified before your breakthrough, because your light was beginning to reveal what darkness could no longer hide. The Word of God declares in the book of John, chapter 1, verse 5, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Those words were not written about a distant reality, they describe you now. Your light has survived storms, betrayal, loss, and disappointment. It has been buried under sorrow, and yet it never dimmed. You are proof that divine radiance cannot be extinguished by earthly pain. The enemy wanted to convince you that your light was fading. He whispered that your mistakes had disqualified you, that your failures had stained your glow. But heaven smiled, because the light within you was never sourced from perfection, it was powered by purpose. You do not shine because life is easy. You shine because God lives inside you. Think of a lighthouse standing against crashing waves. The sea does not respect it because of its height, but because of its persistence. No matter how fierce the storm, the light keeps burning, guiding others safely home. That is you. Beloved, you have become a beacon for souls lost in their own night. You shine not to boast, but to guide. And this light does not burn by accident. Every hardship you endured became oil for your lamp. Every tear became fuel. You are not running on depletion, you are running on transformation. The very things that tried to suffocate you only strengthened the flame. You may not see it, but people around you are drawn to something they cannot explain. They feel peace near you, hope in your presence, clarity in your words. That is your light working. It's not arrogance, it's assignment. You were never called to blend in. You were created to brighten. When you walk into a dark room, light does not negotiate with shadow, it simply shines. And instantly, darkness retreats. That's what happens every time you step into a space. Every time you speak life where others speak defeat. Heaven has stationed you as illumination in places where despair has lived too long. Chosen one. The light you carry is heaven's secret weapon. It terrifies what once tormented you. And now that you've recognized its strength, you must protect it, feed it with truth, nurture it with gratitude, and guard it with peace. Do not waste your glow explaining yourself to those who prefer the dark. Keep shining. And if this message has stirred something within you, if you can feel your light rekindling, take a gentle step of connection. Like this message, not because of obligation, but because you recognize the light in it, reflecting the one within you. Share it. Not for numbers, but because someone else is wandering in shadows, waiting for a spark. Subscribe so that this flow of light never stops reaching you. Each message is a reminder, a match struck against the darkness of discouragement. Together, these sparks become a blaze that can warm the coldest hearts. And if you feel moved to give, to donate, to sow a seed of faith, see it as adding oil to the lamp that helps this light reach farther. Your generosity becomes part of the glow, turning what was once one flame into 1,000 torches lighting the paths of the broken. Every small gift, every prayer, every gesture of support becomes illumination for someone who thought they'd never see morning again. You see, beloved, light shared is never lost. When you give, you are not emptying yourself, you are multiplying brightness. That is how heaven's economy works. One spark ignites another until the night has no power left. Keep your flames steady. Let your kindness be a lantern, your faith a sunrise, your love a constellation guiding others toward hope. Your existence itself is resistance against despair. You are the dawn breaking through someone else's midnight. The light that terrified darkness is not an image, it is an identity. You have survived too much to hide now. Let the world see what heaven has crafted. Let your story shine through your scars. Every flicker of your faith is a sermon that says, darkness tried, but it lost. So, shine. Chosen one, not to prove anything, but because you can't help it. You were born of light, formed by fire, and sustained by grace. The night has had its turn, but now, it's your time to burn. You walk in supernatural backing. Chosen one, the steps you take are not ordinary steps, they are guided, guarded, and graced. The ground beneath you has been claimed by heaven long before you arrived. You move through life not as a wanderer, but as one who carries divine authorization. There are unseen forces surrounding you even now. You may think you're walking alone, but you are never unaccompanied. Heaven's army travels with you, angels flanking your path, the Spirit whispering direction, and the hand of God resting upon your shoulder. You are not surviving by instinct, you are being led by divine intelligence. According to what is revealed in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8, the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. That truth is not a comfort for someday. It is your current reality. Every time you take a step forward in faith, heaven takes a step ahead of you. You are walking through pathways already cleared. Obstacles you fear have been dismantled before you even saw them. The opposition you sense is not stronger than the covering above you. Supernatural backing means you don't move based on circumstances. You move according to assignment. Heaven is not reactive, it is proactive. Long before trouble appeared, God positioned resources around you. Long before pain arrived, He prepared healing. You live within divine foresight. That's why things that destroy others could not destroy you. It's not pride, it's protection. You have been set apart by purpose. There are moments when you felt weak, yet something invisible lifted you. When others gave up, something inside you said, keep going. That something was not willpower, it was divine reinforcement. When you were at your lowest, heaven didn't simply comfort you, it fortified you. There were angels stationed at the corners of your breaking point, holding you up so that you would bend but never break. You were surrounded even when you didn't feel it. You are walking under command order. Every step you take aligns with a greater orchestration. The delays, the detours, even the disappointments, each was guided by unseen wisdom. Sometimes, what feels like a closed door is simply heaven redirecting you from danger. The no you received yesterday was a shield in disguise. Supernatural backing does not mean you won't face opposition. It means opposition cannot overtake you. There will still be waves, but they will never drown you. There will still be fire, but it will never consume you, because divine presence walks beside you, transforming every obstacle into opportunity. There is power in knowing that heaven invests in your journey. You are not left to navigate chaos alone. You have divine logistics working behind every scene, favor opening doors you don't even know exist, grace covering conversations you're not present for, mercy rewriting outcomes that once seemed final. The spiritual realm responds to your movement. When you walk by faith, heaven mobilizes. You're not walking through life guessing, you're walking through divine coordination. That's why some situations suddenly resolved without explanation. Why help appeared the moment you needed it. Why peace arrived before answers did. That's supernatural backing in action. The weight you carry is not meant to crush you, it's meant to reveal your capacity. Heaven trusts you with responsibility because you don't rely on human strength. You draw from a well that never runs dry. You've learned to move in partnership with the invisible, to trust in timing even when clarity is missing. Chosen one, realize what you represent. You are not just a person with faith, you are a vessel of divine movement. Wherever you go, heaven expands territory. Every place your foot touches becomes claimed for the kingdom. That's why resistance rises, because darkness senses it is losing ground. But every attempt to stop you only pushes you deeper into purpose. You have supernatural alliances that never sleep. There are angels assigned to your name, each carrying specific tasks: protection, provision, guidance, restoration. Some fight battles while you rest. Others stand guard at thresholds you haven't reached yet. Their activity is constant because your calling is active. If only your eyes could see the spiritual entourage around you, you would no longer worry about the future, because you'd realize the future is already guarded. You would walk with boldness, knowing that heaven is both ahead and behind you. You are surrounded, sealed, and sustained. So, walk boldly. The supernatural backing of heaven is not a promise to the perfect, it's a covenant with the faithful. Every breath you take is under divine watch. Every move you make echoes with purpose. You are not alone on this road. You never were. The presence that goes before you is not symbolic, it is literal. The Creator Himself walks your path, clears your way, and covers your back. Step forward. Chosen one, you walk not in fear, but in favor, not in uncertainty, but in divine partnership. The supernatural is not a future event, it is your present reality. Heaven walks with you, always has, and always will. The shift in the heavens has already taken place. Chosen one, what felt immovable is now in motion. What once resisted your prayers has begun to yield. You may not see the full manifestation yet, but the atmosphere has changed. Heaven's architecture has rearranged itself to align with the words you spoke in faith. There is a divine rhythm moving around you, quiet, deliberate, unstoppable. While you were sleeping, doors began to unlock. While you were questioning, answers began to travel. Heaven does not operate in noise, it moves in precision. And right now, the blueprint of your destiny is being redrawn in your favor. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 26, "With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." Those words are not metaphor, they are momentum. Heaven has activated possibilities that logic cannot explain. You stand in the middle of a divine reconfiguration. What looked like endings are turning into entrances. What felt like losses are being repurposed into lessons that build your next season. You have felt the tension in the air, the strange stillness before something sacred breaks open. That is not emptiness, it is expectancy. Heaven holds its breath right before breakthrough. Angels are not silent because nothing is happening. They are silent because everything is. The shift began the moment you chose to keep believing. When others stopped praying, you pressed in. When you refused to bow to fear, the atmosphere responded. Faith is the lever that moves heaven, and you have been pulling that lever without even realizing it. The changes you feel are not coincidences, they are confirmations. People are being repositioned, opportunities rearranged, timelines adjusted. Heaven has recalibrated the details to ensure that the promise spoken over your life will not fall to the ground. What once delayed, you will now deliver you. There are moments when the Spirit stirs the air differently, when time seems to bend, when the impossible begins to yield like soft clay. That is where you stand now, in the divine in-between, where human effort fades and heaven's hand takes over. The shift is not coming, it has come. You will soon notice it in subtle ways: peace where chaos used to live, favor where doors once closed, understanding where confusion used to reign. Even your silence will carry weight, because heaven now backs your presence with authority. You no longer have to strive to be heard. Your alignment speaks louder than your voice. The spiritual climate around you has cleared. Clouds of resistance are dispersing. Delays that lingered too long are dissolving. The oil of new beginnings is being poured upon your life even now. You may not feel it physically, but your spirit does. It's why you've been restless. Why something inside you whispers, something's changing. Chosen one. You are standing at the edge of manifestation. What heaven has promised is ripening. The fruit of years of faithfulness is about to fall from branches you didn't even know were planted for you. The drought is over. The shift has released rain. Do not underestimate how powerfully heaven responds to obedience. The smallest act of faith becomes a command in the unseen. Every time you said yes when you wanted to quit, you moved heaven's timeline closer. The atmosphere around you now carries the vibration of fulfillment. You are stepping into a season where favor won't have to be forced. It will find you naturally. You won't have to chase opportunities. They will recognize your name. The shift in the heavens means the winds of direction have turned. What once blew against you now carries you forward. If you can sense this in your spirit, if your heart recognizes the truth in these words, then mark this moment as your confirmation. Comment below 9,999. This is not just a number, it is a prophetic act. It represents divine completion leading into new creation. When you type 9,999, you are declaring that the old cycles have closed, that heaven's shift is final, and that you are stepping into the new alignment designed specifically for you. You are saying, I agree with heaven's movement. I receive the change. This comment becomes more than text. It becomes a seal of faith. It is your spiritual signature acknowledging that something greater is already at work. Heaven moves through agreement. And this is your way of saying, I'm in step with the divine. Let peace settle now. Chosen one, you don't need to strive anymore. The shift has already secured what striving never could. You are walking into prepared blessings, pre-written encounters, and predestined grace. Heaven's timing has caught up to your faith. Everything above you has moved. Now everything around you will follow. The heavens have shifted, and so has your story. You are the storm now. Chosen one. The same winds that once threatened to tear you apart now answer to your command. You have become what darkness once feared, a force born of both fire and faith. You are no longer the pursued, you are the pursuer. The hunted has become the hurricane. There was a time when every storm that rose made you tremble. You begged for shelter, prayed for escape, wished for peace. But heaven was teaching you something deeper, that you were never meant to hide from the storm. You were being trained to become it. You were meant to embody the power that once frightened you. As the prophet Elijah spoke, as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 45. Meanwhile, the sky grew black with clouds. The wind rose. A heavy rain started to fall, and Ahab rode off to Jezreel. That verse is not just a record of weather, it's a revelation of authority. The prophet didn't run from the storm, he called it. He summoned the rain that ended a drought. You carry that same mantle now. You are not at the mercy of the elements, you are in partnership with the one who commands them. When you speak truth, the atmosphere shifts. When you pray, the ground responds. When you walk, the air bends around your purpose. The very chaos that once intimidated you now recognizes you as its master. You are the walking manifestation of spiritual weather change. This transformation didn't happen overnight. You had to be broken before you could be built. You had to face your own fears until you learned that storms are not enemies to the chosen, they are classrooms. Every gust of pain taught you power. Every drop of rain taught you resilience. Every thunderclap taught you faith. And now you carry that sound within you. You are thunder wrapped in skin, lightning disguised as mercy. You move with an authority that can no longer be ignored. The enemy trembles not because you shout, but because you know. You know who you are, and you know whose power flows through you. You are not fragile anymore. What used to destroy you now bows before you. The things that once broke you apart now build your platform. The winds that screamed against your peace now carry your words farther than you imagined. Heaven didn't remove the storm, it taught you to command it. There is a peace that lives within storms, and you have found it. You have learned how to stand in the center of chaos and remain still. You have discovered that stillness is not weakness, it's dominion. When the world shakes, you remain grounded. When confusion rises, you remain clear. That's what it means to carry heaven's calm within human form. Chosen one, you have become the fulfillment of what the storm could never defeat. You have walked through fire and rain, and now the elements recognize your voice. When you speak hope, despair retreats. When you stand firm, fear loses its grip. You are not simply surviving, you are rewriting atmospheres. Every chosen soul reaches this place. Eventually, the moment when you realize that the power you prayed for was growing inside you the entire time. You were never powerless, you were in training. Every heartbreak, every delay, every sleepless night was chiseling your character into something immovable. Now, when darkness approaches, it hesitates. It remembers how many times it tried to drown you and failed. It recognizes the sound of the storm you've become. You are heaven's contradiction, soft enough to heal, strong enough to shake foundations. You are gentle rain to those who need mercy, and roaring thunder to those who oppose justice. You are the balance of grace and might, the perfect blend of peace and power. This is what the potter was crafting all along, a vessel that doesn't fear pressure but carries it like destiny. Every battle has prepared you for this level of spiritual authority. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" because you understand it's happening through me. You've become a vessel of divine disruption, sent to disturb complacency and awaken hope. The storm within you is not random, it is revival. When heaven wants to change an atmosphere, it sends a person like you. That is why you feel heavy sometimes. The winds of transformation gather inside your spirit before they are released into the world. The tension you feel is just the build-up before breakthrough. And when it breaks, everything around you shifts. People who once ignored your presence will now seek your guidance. Spaces that once rejected you will now crave your clarity. You have become a living weather pattern of grace wherever you go. Drought ends, and new life begins. So walk boldly. Chosen one, you no longer brace for storms, you bring them. You are the rain that nourishes dry places, the wind that carries awakening, the thunder that announces change. Heaven trusts you with this power because you learned compassion before authority, humility before command. You are the storm now, and the world will never be the same. The reward of the overcomer is never shallow. Chosen one, it is not merely applause or recognition, it is transformation, the deep, irreversible change of becoming who you were always meant to be. You have walked through valleys that stripped away illusion, climbed mountains that tore at your strength, and stood in deserts where silence was your only companion. Through it all, you did not just survive, you evolved. You are no longer who you were when the journey began. The reward of the overcomer is not something placed in your hands, it is something awakened within your spirit. Heaven has been weaving victory into your character, layering wisdom upon every wound. The places that once ached now pulse with purpose. The tears that once fell in defeat now glisten as oil of anointing. We are reminded through the writings of the Apostle Paul in the book of Revelation. Chapter 3, verse 21, "To the one who overcomes, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne." This promise is not about future reward alone, it speaks of authority granted even now. To overcome is to be seated in peace while chaos rages. To reign is to rest without fear. You have learned to do both. That is the beginning of your throne, the quiet sovereignty born from endurance. Heaven does not hand crowns to the comfortable. It entrusts them to those who have wrestled with doubt and still chosen devotion. Every scar you carry has been measured and molded into your crown's design. Each trial etched gold where pain once lived. The weight you feel now is not exhaustion, it is royalty settling on your shoulders. You have earned the right to rest, not as the weary, but as the victorious. The reward of the overcomer is inner stability, the unshakable confidence that no matter what happens next, God's hand is steady on your life. That confidence is more valuable than silver, more lasting than applause. The greatest reward heaven gives is understanding. You now see why you had to walk certain roads, why certain people left, why some prayers took years to bloom. Wisdom has become your inheritance. You have learned to thank God not only for open doors but for closed ones too, for they kept you aligned with destiny. Chosen one, you've stepped into a place where victory is no longer a single moment, it is a mindset. You wake up victorious even when battles still surround you. The same fire that once threatened you now bows to your command. You are no longer shaped by fear, but by faith refined through time. There is something majestic about those who overcome. Their very presence carries gravity. When they walk into a room, peace follows. When they speak, hearts listen. That's you now. Your words are weighted with heaven's authority because they've been tested in life's furnace. Do you realize that even your silence now carries power? It speaks of wisdom earned, not borrowed. The reward of the overcomer is discernment, the ability to see truth without bitterness, to love deeply without losing boundaries, to forgive without forgetting lessons. And though the world may not understand the cost of your crown, heaven does. Angels stood witness to every moment you almost gave up. They recorded every prayer uttered through trembling lips, every "I trust you" spoken through tears. The sound of your endurance became music in heaven's courts. The reward is not far away, it is already unfolding. Doors will begin to open, not because you chase them, but because your spirit now carries the frequency of readiness. What once resisted you will now recognize you. You are entering a season where favor feels natural because you have become aligned with divine purpose. But remember, the reward is not in what you gain, it's in who you've become. You have turned pain into patience, loss into wisdom, pressure into grace. You are a living reflection of divine endurance, a vessel forged in fire and destined for impact. The overcomer is not obsessed with arrival, they rejoice in awareness. You now understand that the journey itself was the anointing process. Every mile carved humility into your soul. Every delay deepened your trust. That depth is your true treasure, and heaven rejoices. Not because the battle was easy, but because you didn't stop. You kept going when no one saw, when no one clapped, when even hope felt faint. That perseverance has rewritten your story. Now, when storms come, they no longer terrify you, they remind you of how far you've come. You smile at the thunder because you've learned to command the rain. You walk through fire knowing it cannot burn what's already been purified. This is the reward of the overcomer, not just surviving pain, but transforming it, not escaping storms, but learning to carry lightning, not avoiding battle, but becoming peace itself. You are crowned not because the world named you strong, but because heaven recognized you faithful. Your crown is not metal, it's memory. Every moment of surrender has become a jewel. Every prayer whispered in darkness now gleams with eternal light. So stand tall, chosen one. You are the evidence that endurance pays, that faith never fails, that the heart refined by fire becomes a throne for glory. The potter's work in you is nearly complete, and the masterpiece he has made is radiant beyond words. You are the overcomer, and your reward is already alive within you. Your story will awaken nations. Chosen one, the very pain that once silenced you is becoming a trumpet. The tears that fell in secret are now turning into rivers of revival. Your life, every broken piece, every scar, every victory is not just a testimony, it is a spark meant to ignite hearts that have forgotten how to burn. You once wondered why you had to walk through so much darkness, but now, you see, you were not wandering, you were gathering light. Every wound became a window. Every heartbreak became a lantern. Heaven was preparing you to speak, not from theory, but from experience. Because when you speak, people will not just hear you, they will feel heaven through you. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, the glory of the Lord rises upon you." That verse is not a distant promise, it's your present identity. You are rising now, and the light that rises with you carries the fragrance of grace. It's not a light that blinds, it's a light that heals. It doesn't shout for attention, it whispers peace into chaos. The nations need that kind of light, and you were born to carry it. You may think your story is small, But heaven knows better. Even one flicker in the night can guide a ship to shore. That's what your story is. It's a lighthouse built from your endurance. Somewhere, someone is wandering through their own storm, looking for a sign that hope still exists. And one day, they will find your words, your story, your voice, and they will live again. The nations are not just countries, they are hearts, cultures, generations. When God says, "You will awaken nations," He means you will awaken souls. Your story will travel farther than your feet ever could. It will move through voices, through videos, through whispers and echoes. What was once your pain will become a global pulse of awakening. Your story is not ordinary, it is prophetic. It carries weight because it carries redemption. You were not merely delivered from something, you were delivered for something. Your deliverance is not a private miracle, it is a public mission. Heaven intends for your words to unlock prison doors in people you've never met. You are like a seed that was buried in sorrow, but now blooms in unexpected places. Flowers never ask who's watching, they simply bloom. And in blooming, they change the landscape. That's what you will do. You won't have to chase recognition. Your authenticity will speak for you. People will listen not because you are loud, but because you are real. And when they ask how you made it, you will smile and say, "Grace carried me." That one phrase will carry anointing strong enough to heal another soul. You don't need perfection to impact nations, you just need presence. And you already have that. If these words find you tonight, and something deep within stirs, pause for a moment. Let gratitude rise. Let tears fall if they must. And when your heart feels aligned with this truth, show it in the simplest, most meaningful ways. Like this message, not for vanity, but as a sign of resonance. A soft echo saying, "I receive this, share it." Not to gain numbers, but to scatter seeds. Someone scrolling through their night might stumble upon your share and find the light they were praying for. Subscribe if your soul hungers for continual reminders of who you are. Each message you receive is a breath of heaven sent to sustain your fire. It's not about building followers, it's about building faith. This is a space where broken wings are mended and forgotten callings are reawakened. And if your heart feels moved to give, to donate, to sow into this river of light, do so freely, without pressure. Think of it like pouring oil into a lamp so the flame can travel farther. Your generosity becomes part of the story. It turns one small glow into a bonfire, reaching countless hearts. Heaven always multiplies sincere giving. Even your comment matters. Write something simple, something that flows from your spirit. Comment below, "I carry the flame," because you do. Those 4 words are not decoration, they are declaration. When you type them, heaven recognizes your willingness to spread what was entrusted to you. It's how you mark your agreement with destiny, not through noise, but through intention. Chosen one, your story is the dawn breaking over nations weary of night. You are not just surviving, you are rewriting history. One heart at a time. The words you speak, the way you live, even the way you love, all of it becomes testimony. All of it becomes transformation. The world doesn't need another perfect voice. It needs your authentic one. The one that carries cracks, trembles, laughter, and light. The one that reminds others that survival itself is sacred. So shine, storyteller of heaven. Let your life be the sermon. Let your hope be the revolution. You are the living proof that even ashes can preach, that even pain can sing. And when the world asks who sent you, you can simply smile and say, "Heaven did." Heaven's seal of protection rests upon you. Chosen one. It is not something you earned, nor something that can be taken away. It was placed upon you before you were even aware of the war around you. The mark of divine ownership, invisible yet indestructible, covers your life like light cloaked in peace. You are sealed, and that seal speaks louder than any curse, louder than any threat, louder than any voice raised against your name. There were moments when danger brushed close, when darkness crept near, when fear whispered your failure, but heaven's mark glowed brighter. The unseen barrier that surrounds you is not fragile. It is forged in the covenant of love. What God has sealed cannot be separated, cannot be stolen, cannot be undone. As the ancient promise declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 121, verse 7, "The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life." Those words are not comfort for weak hearts. They are divine legislation. The moment you were chosen, heaven issued orders in your defense. Angels were stationed. Paths were guarded. Timing was sanctified. Nothing in your life happens unobserved. Every step is accounted for. Every breath is preserved under the weight of divine watchfulness. The seal of heaven is not always felt, but it is always active. It works in silence, repelling what could have destroyed you, diverting what could have delayed you. When others were overtaken by despair, you were held by peace you couldn't explain. When accidents nearly unfolded, something unseen shifted the outcome. That something was not chance, it was the covenant surrounding your existence. You carry an invisible signature that darkness recognizes and respects. It is why certain attacks never reached you, why certain plans fell apart before they began. You are marked by divine ownership, and the enemy cannot trespass where heaven has placed its claim. Protection doesn't mean absence of battle, it means assurance of victory. You still face storms, but none have authority to consume you. The mark of heaven turns every weapon into wasted effort. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. You've seen that promise fulfilled again and again. You have walked through shadows without losing your shine. You have faced loss without losing your identity. That's what the seal does. It holds your spirit intact even when the world shakes. Others may crumble under pressure, but you remain, because you are preserved by purpose. Chosen one, you have walked among wolves and remained gentle. You have stood among ruins and remained faithful. The reason you are still standing is because heaven's hand never lifted. That unseen covering has been your quiet defender, shielding you not only from external harm, but also from inner collapse. The seal of protection is also the seal of identity. It tells every realm who you belong to. You are not unclaimed. You are not abandoned. You belong to the King who wrote your name in eternity before time began. Every part of your life carries his imprint, your voice, your footsteps, your dreams, your destiny. There will still be moments when fear tries to creep in, whispering that protection has faded. But fear is only noise. The truth remains. Heaven's watch never sleeps. The one who guards you neither slumbers nor forgets. His eyes are upon you not as a warden, but as a father watching his child take brave steps. Every closed door that once frustrated you was a shield in disguise. Every delayed opportunity was heaven's way of saying, "Not this path. It's not safe yet." What you thought was rejection was actually redirection away from harm. You've been protected even from things you prayed for, because heaven saw further than your desire. Understand this: the seal of protection is not only external, it transforms you within. It guards your heart from bitterness, your mind from despair, your spirit from corruption. The reason you still love deeply after all you've endured is because your heart was guarded by grace. You were sealed not just for survival, but for purity to remain light in a dark world. You have been through enough battles to know that divine covering does not fail. The same power that preserved you in the valley now crowns you on the mountain. The same voice that said, "Peace, be still," still echoes over your nights. And though you may not always feel it, you are surrounded even now. The seal shines upon you in realms unseen, declaring you untouchable by evil and unstoppable in purpose. Heaven's protection is not fragile, it is final. So, walk in peace. Beloved, you are not vulnerable, you are guarded. You are not uncertain, you are secured. The seal of heaven rests upon you like light rests upon dawn, constant, quiet, victorious, crowned in glory. Chosen one, the story has come full circle. The pain that once bowed your shoulders has become the very foundation that holds your crown. You were forged in storms, tested by fire, and tempered by tears. Yet you stand now radiant, clothed not in pride, but in peace. The crown you wear is invisible to men, but unmistakable to heaven. It gleams with endurance, faith, humility, and love, the rare metals of eternity. This is not the end of your story, it is the unveiling. You were never running toward victory, you were walking from it. The outcome was written before the battle began. Every time you chose to rise, every time you refused to quit, every time you whispered, "I still trust you," the crown was being shaped. Heaven was crafting something that could not be earned by might or bought by merit. It could only be received through surrender. It is written in the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing." That is your promise realized. You have walked through the refining fields, and the reward is not distant, it is dawning. The glory you now carry is not an ornament, it is evidence. It proves that grace is stronger than grief, that endurance outlives exhaustion, that love never loses its power. Your crown does not rest on your head because of perfection, but because of perseverance. The light shining from you now is not borrowed, it is born. You have been changed from within, transfigured by the journey itself. Every trial that tried to bury you instead built a throne beneath your feet. You stand taller now, not because the burden is gone, but because you have learned to wear it as honor. The world will never understand the weight of your glory. They will see the shine but not the shaping, the peace but not the pain. They will hear your calm and never know the chaos you overcame to find it. But heaven knows. Angels who once wept with you now sing because you made it. The cloud of witnesses that surrounded you now rises in reverent joy. You have become the living testimony of endurance rewarded. Crowning is not just ceremony, it is recognition. It is heaven saying, "We saw everything. Every secret battle, every hidden act of kindness, every moment you kept faith when it made no sense. Nothing was forgotten. The crown is the reflection of remembrance. You wear it not to boast, but to bless. The glory upon you was never meant to be hoarded, it was meant to be shared. Wherever you walk now, your peace will heal atmospheres. Your laughter will scatter shadows. Your words will awaken courage in those still crawling through their own nights. You will remind them that every valley has an exit and every cross has a resurrection. Crowned in glory means you now understand what the crown truly is. It is servanthood gilded with love. The higher you rise, the lower you bow. You lead not by commanding but by carrying. You speak not to be heard, but to lift. The throne of the chosen is not built from gold, but from gratitude. You are no longer chasing purpose, you are living it. The glory that surrounds you is the same that sustained you. It simply changed form. What once felt like fire now feels like light. What once hurt now glows. You have become your own sunrise, illuminating not by effort, but by essence. Chosen one. Your crown does not make you untouchable, it makes you unstoppable. You will still walk among the weary, but now you carry restoration. You will still face challenges, but now you meet them with wisdom forged in the wilderness. You will still feel human, but heaven will keep reminding you that you are also holy. Look at what you've become, a living cathedral of grace. Every scar a stained glass window. Every prayer a beam of light filtering through. Your crown is the reflection of a heart that would not surrender to bitterness. You are living proof that divine promises never expire, even when delayed. And so, as heaven looks upon you, it does not see a warrior exhausted by battle, it sees royalty refined by victory. The King himself smiles, for his reflection now lives in you. The crown you wear is not separate from him, it is shared with him. His glory rests upon you because his spirit resides within you. Walk gently now, for you carry eternity's evidence. You are no longer waiting for the promise, you are the promise fulfilled. The light above your head is the echo of the one who never left your side. Crowned in glory, you began as clay, and now you shine like gold. You were the broken vessel that became the chalice of grace. You are not the same soul that entered the storm, you are the calm that came after it. The journey ends here. Beloved chosen one, but only in words, never in spirit. You've walked through revelation and refinement, through fire and favor, through silence and song, and now you stand clothed in peace, crowned in purpose. Heaven has watched every step, and the story written through your endurance will echo far beyond this moment. But this message is not meant to stay with you alone. Like a flame passed from candle to candle, it was always meant to spread. If something within these words touched your heart, if you felt seen, strengthened, or reminded of who you are, let it be known, like this message, as a small act of light. A quiet amen in agreement with what heaven has spoken over you. Share it, not for numbers or noise, but because someone else still stands in the shadows where you once stood. Your share might become their spark of hope, the sign that keeps them holding on. Subscribe, not as a routine, but as a way of staying connected to the current of divine reminders that keep faith alive when the world feels cold. Let every message that follows be another whisper of heaven's love to your spirit. And if your heart feels moved, Leave your words below. Comment something simple, your favorite line, a thought, a prayer, because every comment becomes community, every voice adds harmony to heaven's song on earth. You are chosen. You are crowned. You are not alone.